Marcus Aurelius was not a monk. He was not a hermit, living in a cave far from the world's noise. He was the most powerful man alive, commanding armies, ruling an empire of 60 million souls, arbitrating the fates of nations. And every single morning, before the world demanded anything of him, he sat down alone and wrote to himself, not for glory, not for an audience, not for posterity, just to remind himself who he was trying to be. That collection of private notes became the Meditations, one of the most read philosophical texts in human history, studied by generals, presidents, CEOs, and ordinary people who simply wanted to live better. And here is what strikes me every time I return to those pages. Marcus Aurelius was writing those words to survive his own life. The question for you watching this in 2026 is this: what would it mean for you to survive yours? Not just get through it, not just endure it, but move through it with clarity, strength, and a kind of unshakable inner peace that the chaos outside cannot touch. That is what Stoicism offers, and that is exactly what this video is about. Before we go any further, I need to clear something up, because when most people hear the word Stoic, they imagine something like this: a stone-faced person who feels nothing, who suppresses every emotion, buries every pain, and trudges through life like a machine. Someone who looks at suffering and just says, "I don't care." That is not Stoicism. That has never been Stoicism. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, Zeno of Citium, these were not emotionally dead men. They were among the most feeling human beings who ever lived. Seneca wrote devastating letters about grief, about friendship, about the terror of wasted time. Epictetus was born a slave. He knew physical pain, humiliation, and powerlessness in ways most of us will never understand. And out of that crucible, he forged a philosophy of total inner freedom. Marcus Aurelius lost children. He endured plague, betrayal, endless war. He wrote about exhaustion, about the temptation to give up, about mornings when he didn't want to get out of bed. Sound familiar? What the Stoics actually taught was not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. The ability to feel fully and still choose your response. The ability to face what cannot be changed without being destroyed by it. And the discipline to pour your energy only into what you can actually control. In 2026, that philosophy is not ancient history. It is perhaps the most urgent set of ideas you could encounter. We are living in an age of maximum distraction, maximum anxiety, and minimum stillness. The tools designed to connect us have made us more fragmented. The abundance designed to satisfy us has made us more restless. The speed designed to free us has made us more frantic. The Stoics would have had a word for this condition. They would have called it living externally, orienting your entire existence around things outside your control and wondering why you never feel at peace. This video is the antidote. What follows is not a motivational pep talk. It is a complete philosophical guide, drawn from the original texts of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca for transforming how you think, how you act, and how you inhabit your own life. We are going to move through 7 pillars of Stoic transformation. By the time we finish, you will not just know what Stoicism is, you will know how to live it. And before we begin, if this kind of deep, unhurried exploration of philosophy speaks to you, you know what to do. Subscribe to Wisdom of the Stoics. Leave a comment below telling me what brought you here today. Every single comment is read. Now, let us begin. Pillar 1, the dichotomy of control. Everything in Stoic philosophy flows from a single idea. It is the foundation beneath every other teaching, and it was stated most plainly by Epictetus, a man who had lost his freedom but never his mind. He wrote, "Some things are in our control and others not." 6 words, the simplest sentence in philosophy, and also one of the hardest to live. Let me make this concrete. Think about the last time you were genuinely anxious, genuinely disturbed, lying awake at 2 a.m. with your mind running in circles. What was it about? I would wager, almost without exception, it was about something you could not fully control. What someone else thinks of you, whether a situation will turn out the way you need it to, your reputation, the economy, the behavior of people around you. your health, time. The Stoics did not say these things don't matter. They said something more precise. Your suffering does not come from these things. It comes from your belief that they are in your control when they are not. Music, quiet, reflective. Epictetus drew the sharpest possible line. In your control, your judgments, your intentions, your desires, your will. In short, your inner life. Not in your control, your body, your reputation, your property, what others say or do, the outcomes of events. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds cold. That sounds like giving up. But consider the opposite. What does it actually cost you to pursue control over things that cannot be controlled? It costs you your peace, your attention, your energy, your time. And ultimately, it costs you the only thing you were ever truly given custody of, yourself. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline relentlessly. In the Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Here is the practice, and I want you to actually try this. Take whatever is troubling you most right now. The thing that keeps returning to your mind, divide it into 2 columns. Column 1, what in this situation is genuinely within my control, my attitude, my effort, my response, my preparation. Column 2, what is outside my control, the other person, the outcome, what others say, external circumstances. Now, pour everything you have into column 1 and practice, slowly, imperfectly, over time, releasing column 2. Not with indifference, with acceptance. There is a profound difference between resignation and acceptance. Resignation says, I give up. Acceptance says, I see clearly, and I will act from that clarity. This single practice, applied consistently, will change the texture of your days more than almost anything else. The Stoics called this prosoj, self-attention, self-watchfulness, the practice of catching yourself the moment. You begin spending your energy on what lies beyond your reach. And every time you catch yourself and return, that is a victory. That is philosophy in action. Pillar 2, the present moment as the only battlefield. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that stopped me cold the first time I read it. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." 3 words. In a journal entry written by a man who spent decades planning the future and managing the consequences of the past. He wasn't writing it as wisdom for others. He was writing it as a reminder to himself, a correction, because even he, a Stoic emperor, kept drifting. We all do. The mind, left unattended, does not live in the present. It lives in a ghost town of past regrets and a fantasy city of future anxieties. You are at dinner, but your mind is at tomorrow's meeting. You are with someone you love, but your attention is on an argument that happened 3 days ago. You are alive right now, and you are somewhere else entirely. Seneca named this with devastating clarity. He wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And in another letter, "Omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." All things are foreign to us. Time alone is ours. Think about that. Everything else, your house, your money, your reputation, your relationships can be taken, have been taken from people far stronger than you or me. But this moment, the way you are inhabiting it right now, that is yours, and only yours. The Stoics were not teaching a crude live-in-the-moment philosophy. They were not telling you to be impulsive, to ignore consequences, to forget everything you've learned. They were teaching something more surgical. Bring the quality of your attention back to where your hands actually are. Because the present moment is the only place where action is possible, where change is possible, where life actually happens. The past is fixed. The future is unborn. But right here, there is something you can do. Here is a practice drawn directly from Marcus Aurelius's morning routine. He would begin each day by asking himself, what am I doing today? Why does it matter? What will I face? And who do I want to be while I face it? Not a manifesting exercise, not a visualization of success, a simple act of attention, of intentional presence before the day took hold. Try it tomorrow. Before you reach for your phone, before the notifications begin, sit with these 3 questions. What is in front of me today? What do I actually value? Who am I choosing to be? It takes 4 minutes, and those 4 minutes will do more for your sense of direction than hours of scrolling ever could. Pillar 3. Amor fati, the love of fate. There is a concept in Stoic philosophy so radical that even after years of studying it, I find it challenging. The Stoics called it amor fati, love of fate, not acceptance of fate, not tolerance of fate, love of it. The idea that everything that happens to you, every failure, every loss, every humiliation, every illness, every door that closed in your face and was not a punishment, it was material. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Epictetus put it differently. He said that obstacles do not block the path, they are the path. This is not a motivational poster sentiment. This is a hard, practical philosophy. Let me show you what it actually means. Every capacity you have right now, every quality in you that you genuinely respect, was formed by difficulty. Your patience was built in situations that had no patience for you. Your resilience was built in seasons when you had every reason to fall apart. Your judgment was built through the mistakes that were too expensive to repeat. The Stoics believed that the universe, what they called the logos, the rational principle underlying all things, did not make mistakes. That events, however painful in isolation, were part of a coherent whole. You do not have to share that metaphysical belief to use this principle, because even if the universe is utterly indifferent, you are not. You are a creature who can assign meaning, who can decide what to make of what happens to you. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the Nazi concentration camps and lost nearly everything, wrote that the last of the human freedoms is the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years before him. Now, I want to ask you something directly, and I want you to sit with it. What in your past, what loss, what failure, what wound are you still carrying as pure damage? What if it was also instruction? What if the thing you've most wanted to escape was, in some sense, you haven't yet found? The very thing that made you capable of what comes next. I am not asking you to be grateful for pain. Gratitude is not always possible or honest. I'm asking something smaller and more precise. Can you be willing to find the use in it? That willingness, that tiny pivot from victim of events to student of events, is the beginning of amor fati, and it changes everything. Pillar 4, the discipline of desire. Seneca wrote a letter to his friend Lucilius that reads as if it were written last week. He described a man who rushes from city to city, from experience to experience, always searching and never quite arriving. He said, "Travel cannot give you anything that flight can give you. You are running away from yourself." We live in a civilization engineered to manipulate desire. Every platform you use, every advertisement you encounter, every algorithm that feeds your attention, all of it is designed to produce one specific psychological state, the feeling that what you have is not enough. And that feeling is extraordinarily profitable for other people, and extraordinarily expensive for you. The Stoics had a word for the grip that desires have on us when we confuse want with need. Epithumia, appetite unexamined. Craving that mistakes itself for necessity. And their remedy was not asceticism. It was not living in poverty or abandoning comfort. It was clarity about what actually matters. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, with access to every luxury Rome could offer, wrote constantly about the smallness of material things. He would list the pleasures of the table and then ask, "What are these, really?" The dead body of some animal, fermented grape juice, heated air. He was not being cynical. He was practicing what the Stoics called negative visualization, premeditatio malorum, the deliberate contemplation of the true nature of things. By seeing them clearly, he freed himself from being enslaved by them. Here is the practice. Pick one thing you want right now. One object, one outcome, one status marker that you feel you need in order to be content. Hold it in your mind. Now ask, if I had this, truly had it, would I be satisfied? Or would I immediately want the next thing? Then ask, what am I actually seeking through this thing? Security, recognition, love, stillness? Because the Stoics would tell you this. The thing is almost never the actual target. Behind every craving is a deeper need. And the deeper need for peace, for meaning, for connection cannot be purchased. This is not a lecture against ambition. Stoicism does not ask you to stop striving. It asks you to know why you're striving, and to find your contentment in the striving itself, not contingent on the outcome. Seneca wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." That is not passive. That is the deepest form of abundance. Pillar 5, Memento Mori, remembering death to live fully. In ancient Rome, when a general returned from war in a great triumph, a procession through the streets, the crowds roaring, flower petals falling, there was a man who rode in the chariot beside him. His only job was to whisper in the general's ear over and over, "Memento Mori, remember that you will die." Not to ruin the moment, to make it real. The Stoics were unusual among ancient philosophers for making death a constant meditation, not in a morbid or despairing way, but as the sharpest possible tool for clarifying what matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Think about what that sentence does. It collapses every petty grievance, every manufactured drama, every week spent on someone else's priorities, every evening wasted on content that left you feeling empty. If today were your last, not dramatically, not as a fantasy, but genuinely, as a philosophical possibility you hold lightly, what would you stop doing? What would you do instead? B-roll, an elderly person's hands, a child running, a window in afternoon light. Seneca wrote one of the most arresting lines in all of philosophy, "Non differtur vita transcurrit." Life is not postponed, it passes. He was writing to a wealthy friend who kept saying he would begin to really live once a certain thing was finished, once a certain goal was achieved, once the circumstances were finally right. Seneca told him, those circumstances will never be perfectly right. And while you wait, the days go. They are going now. I want to be direct with you for a moment. Not as a philosopher, as someone who has sat with these texts long enough to feel the weight of them. Whatever you are waiting for permission to begin, a change, a conversation, a creative project, a relationship, a season of your life you keep postponing, the Stoics would tell you that the waiting is not neutral. Every day spent waiting is a day spent on something else. You are not pausing your life. You are living it. The question is only, consciously or not. Memento mori is not a shadow over life. When you genuinely hold it, it is a light. The awareness of death does not make life feel smaller. It makes it feel more precious, more urgent, more worthy of your full presence. Use it that way. Pillar 6, the virtue that remains. At the very center of Stoic philosophy is an idea that takes a long time to fully absorb. The Stoics believed that virtue, moral excellence, living in accordance with reason and principle, was the only true good, not the only nice thing, not one important thing among many, the only good. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, success, they called preferred indifference. Preferable, yes. Worth pursuing, yes, but not in themselves the source of a good life. This sounds extreme. It sounds almost inhuman, but consider what it actually gives you. If virtue is the only true good, and virtue is entirely within your control, then no external circumstance can rob you of a good life. You can be ill and live well. You can be poor and live well. You can lose your reputation and live well. Because a good life, for the Stoics, was not a life of fortunate circumstances. It was a life of right action, of integrity, of choosing to be the person you want to be in every situation you find yourself in. Marcus Aurelius, on the battlefield, in the palace, in the grief of loss, in the exhaustion of 30 years of service, kept asking himself the same question: am I being the person I want to be right now? Not, am I winning? Am I comfortable? Am I approved of? Am I being good? This is the question that outlasts every external measure of success. When the achievements fade and the noise settles, and eventually, it all does, what remains is only this. Who were you while it was happening? What did you bring to the people around you? What did you build in yourself? The Stoics would tell you that is the only ledger that matters. And the astonishing gift hidden inside that truth is this. You can begin adding to that ledger right now. No waiting, no special circumstances required, no permission needed. The next moment, the next conversation, the next small decision, each one is an opportunity to be the person you most want to be. Pillar 7, the practice of daily philosophy. Philosophy for the Stoics was never abstract. It was not something you read about or debated over dinner. It was something you did every day, in the smallest details of how you moved through the world. Marcus Aurelius called this ascesis, training. The philosophical life was a daily practice, like physical training. You did not do it once and become a Stoic. You did it every morning and failed by noon, and began again the next day. That too is part of the practice. So here is how to make this real, not as an idealist exercise, but as an actual daily architecture drawn from the Stoics themselves. In the morning, before the day begins, 5 minutes, sit in stillness. Ask, what will I face today? What will challenge my patience, my focus, my principles? And who do I choose to be as I face it? This is not a productivity ritual. It is a philosophical preparation. Marcus called it morning reflection. Epictetus called it prohairesis. The deliberate exercise of choice before the day makes choices for you. Throughout the day, when you notice yourself disturbed by someone's behavior, by an unexpected obstacle, by rising anxiety, pause before you react. Even one breath. Ask, is this within my control? If yes, act clearly from your values. If no, release the disturbance. It has nothing to feed on if you do not feed it. In the evening, Seneca kept a nightly review. He would ask himself 3 questions before sleep. What did I do wrong today? How could I have been better? What will I do differently tomorrow? Not as self-punishment, as honest, clear-eyed self-examination. The same careful attention you'd bring to reviewing a manuscript or a plan. The Stoics believed that a life unreflected upon was a life lived in someone else's narrative. The evening review was the act of claiming your own. None of this is complicated. None of it requires a retreat or a course or special equipment. It requires only this, a sincere willingness to pay attention to the quality of your own inner life, and the patience to begin again every single day when you fall short. In 65 AD, the Emperor Nero ordered Seneca to take his own life. Seneca, by then an old man, the most celebrated philosopher and writer in Rome, received the message calmly. His friends wept. He asked them, where had all their years of philosophical study gone, if not to prepare for exactly this? He wrote his final letters. He spoke to those gathered around him. He asked to dictate to his scribes, wanting to leave something worth leaving. I have always been moved by the image of that. A man in his final hours, choosing still to be a philosopher, not performing courage, not pretending the end was easy, but meeting it with the same attentive, principled presence he had tried to bring to every other day of his life. That is what the practice is for. Not for the average Tuesday, not for when things are comfortable and the path is clear. For the hard days, for the unbearable ones, for the days when everything outside is against you and the only shelter you have is who you've built yourself to be. Here is what I want to leave you with. In 2026, in this world of unprecedented speed and noise and pressure, the most radical thing you can do is stop. Stop and ask the questions the Stoics kept asking. What is actually in my control? Am I present where I actually am? What does this difficulty have to teach me? What do I actually need beneath all that I want? Am I living as if today mattered because it will not come again? Who am I being right now? And is that who I want to be? B-roll, the figure on the road, still walking, the horizon ahead, golden and open. The Stoics did not promise a life without pain. They promised something rarer and more lasting, a life that cannot be stolen from within, a mind that, whatever storms come, has somewhere solid to stand. That is the transformation available to you. It has always been available to you. It begins the moment you choose to take it seriously. Silence, then music swells gently one final time. If this video meant something to you, share it with one person who might need it. Leave a comment below telling me which of these 7 pillars hit hardest. And if you want to go deeper into the Stoic texts, subscribe to this channel. We return to these writings every week, without shortcuts, without hype. The Stoics are waiting, and so is a better version of you.